Good evening. We'll call the meeting to order. Mr. Grunsky, would you lead the flag salute, please? Thank you. Roll call, please.
We'll be commencing with an oral roll call vote. Roll call. Commissioner Hamilton?
Present.
Commissioner Grunsky?
Present.
Commissioner Midgley? Commissioner Rustaller?
Here.
Commissioner Songa?
Here.
That concludes roll call.
Okay, thank you much. Action or request for continuance or withdrawals?
No, Chairman and Commission, there are no requests.
Thank you. At this time, the public is welcome to address the Planning Commission on items of interest to the public that are not listed on the agenda. Comments to the Commission are limited to a maximum of 5 minutes or 250 words. Public comment. Pardon me? No, on the online, any online would like to bring anything up?
If anyone has any items they wish to address the Planning Commission that are not on the agenda for this evening, this would be your moment to address them. I'm seeing no online participation for the open comments.
Consent item number 3, items calendar for consent will be approved in one motion. Public hearing unless a member of the Planning Commission or the audience requests that the item be removed. Consent calendar and heard separate.
So moved.
Second.
Seconded.
Roll call.
Commissioner Songa?
Aye.
Commissioner Rustaller?
Aye.
Commissioner Midgley? Commissioner Grunsky?
Yes.
Commissioner Hamilton?
Yes. Motion passes 5-0. Action item number 1, appeal of staff's denial of site approval number PA 2000-214 of Kemp's property manager. Stephanie?
Thank you, Chair Hamilton. We have Stephanie Stowers, our senior planner, who's going to give a brief presentation, and then we have the appellant, who is also the applicant here in the audience tonight.
Good evening, Chairman and members of the Commission. This project is an appeal of the Community Development Department's denial of site approval application number PA 2000214. The project is for a 134-foot tall wireless communication tower. The subject property is located at the southeast corner of Murphy Road and Colony Road, north of Ripon. The project site has a general plan designation of AUR, which is Agriculture Urban Reserve, and a zoning designation of AG40, General Agriculture 40-acre minimum. The project site is currently planted in orchard and is primarily surrounded by agricultural parcels with scattered residences. However, the parcel is located in the sphere of influence for the city of Ripon and is located approximately 1,200 feet northeast of existing developed residential parcels located within the city limits. So this area is the nearest residential development located in the city. The Colony Oak Elementary School is also located near the project site at the northwest corner, essentially, of Murphy Road and Colony Road. For reference, that is this parcel highlighted here. This is a site plan submitted by the applicant. The cell tower is depicted in the lower corner of the project site, right here along Murphy Road. The Community Development Department denied the site approval on October 21, 2021, based on the inability to make the findings required for a site approval. Findings 1, 2, 3, and 5 could not be made in the affirmative. The applicant appealed the denial on October 28, 2021, but requested CDD staff place the appeal on hold to allow for time to work with the City of Ripon regarding their comments. These discussions stalled in March, and the appeal was scheduled for the next available Planning Commission hearing. As discussed previously, the subject parcel is located within the sphere of influence for the City of Ripon. It is designated in the city's general plan for residential development. Additionally, the City of Ripon Municipal Code requires a 500-foot buffer between residential development and wireless communication towers. If this parcel or neighboring parcels were annexed into the City of Ripon, the placement of a cell tower would impact the ability to develop the area residentially as planned. In 2018, the Board of Supervisors for San Joaquin County approved Resolution R-1824, and with this resolution, the county agreed to provide due consideration to comments for development proposals located within the City of Ripon's sphere of influence. When the comments are consistent with the implementation of the general plan and the development title. The city submitted an opposition letter dated April 1st of 2021, and this letter was considered in the review of the application. The appellant states that the denial was based solely on the opposition letter received from the City of Ripon and that they are working with the City of Ripon regarding the city's concerns. CDD coordinated with the City of Ripon throughout the review of the original application due to the location being within the city's sphere of influence. And CDD considered Ripon's comments in review of the application. However, CDD's denial was not based solely on the opposition letter received by the city or from the city. In order to approve a site approval, the necessary findings must be made in the affirmative. And staff determined that findings 1, 2, 3, and 5 could not be made in the affirmative, and thus the application was denied. Additionally, the appellant states that the project is consistent with the general plan and development title. Further, the applicant states that the denial should be overturned and the applicant should be able to amend or resubmit the application. CDD staff reviewed the application pursuant to the regulations for site approval applications included in the development title, which includes review of the general plan. Through this review, staff found that the project conflicted with various goals and policies contained in the general plan. Consistency with the general plan is necessary to approve a project and is required in finding 1, consistency. Additionally, throughout review, staff found that findings 2, 3, and 5 could also not be made in the affirmative. As a result, the project is neither consistent with the general plan nor the development title. Regarding amending or resubmitting the application, when a project is denied, the development title in section 9-215.15 states that no application may be accepted if a similar application has been finally denied during the immediate preceding 1-year period. If the commission upholds the denial, the 1-year wait will be required before resubmittal of a similar project, including any project classified under the same use type and on the same parcel. After the project was denied in October of 2021, the applicant submitted new site plans that depicted a cell tower, or the cell tower, in a new location, moved from the western side of the property to the east. At this time, the project was already denied. As a result, this information has not been reviewed in depth. However, the subject parcel in its entirety is designated for residential development in the City of Ripon's general plan. The proposed changes would not change the department's recommendation. If the commission would like to consider the revisions to the location of the tower, the application must be referred back to staff for appropriate review and noticing, including noticing of the public, which is required by the development title. Prior to denial of the original application, CDD received opposition letters from the City of Ripon, Colony Oak Elementary School, signed by 37 staff members and 21 members of the community. Additionally, over 200 people and organizations contacted the Board of Supervisors to express opposition to the project. On April 12, 2022, the City of Ripon provided additional comments requesting an additional condition of approval for the applicant to enter into an agreement with the City of Ripon for removal of the tower if the appeal is granted. Staff discussed the City of Ripon comments with County Council and is not recommending the addition of this condition. If you have further questions regarding the agreement, you can direct them to our counsel. This photo is taken from Murphy Road looking northeast at the project site. And this project is taken at the intersection of Murphy Road and Colony Road looking south at the property. So this is on the far end of the property from where the cell tower is located, but this is the intersection where the school is basically catty corner from this corner. It is recommended that the Board of Supervisors, or excuse me, I copy and pasted this from an old presentation, I apologize. It is recommended that the Planning Commission deny the appeal of New Singular Wireless and uphold the Community Development Department's denial of the site approval number PA 2000214. Thank you. That concludes staff's presentation.
Thank you. Any comments or questions? Stephanie? None. Would the representative? State your name and address, please.
Sure. My name is Kevin Gallagher. I am based out of 2009 V Street, Sacramento, California. I'm with Complete Wireless Consulting on behalf of the applicant for this project, which is New Singular Wireless PCS. They do business as AT&T Mobility. Would staff be able to put up our, oh, thank you. Also available, there's been a lot of concern from the community, so we do also have available remotely an independent third-party RF engineer, Raj Mathur, if the commission has any questions in that regard. And AT&T's External Affairs Director for the area, Bryant Malisi, is also available remotely. I'd like to begin by noting at the outset that AT&T no longer wishes to place the facility at the location that staff laid out in their presentation. Thank you for the presentation and your time on that front. That location we've labeled up top as the denied location. The revised location is a new alternate location that we are considering. All we are asking this evening is that the Planning Commission refer the project back to staff so that they can review the additional information that we've submitted regarding an alternate location 1,200 feet east of the denied location, as noted in the staff report. You can see those locations above. AT&T believes that this further information will ultimately show upon review that the alternate location is the best, least intrusive means of filling a significant gap in coverage, and that therefore, under local and federal law, staff would be justified in reversing their findings for denial. As staff noted, AT&T originally submitted an application for the site back in 2021. The original location was 50 feet off of Murphy Road, a little over 500 feet from the nearest residence, and about 1,000 feet from the edge of Colony Oak Elementary School grounds. AT&T is no longer seeking to place a facility in this location. I do want to stress that. You can see that on the slide. Now, many members of the community and the staff of Colony Oaks expressed opposition to the project on the grounds that it was too close to the school, with many expressing safety concerns given the history of cancer in the city of Ripon. Although the school was not mentioned in staff's findings for a denial, we would like to briefly address those concerns because they are serious and we take them seriously. We've had an independent RF engineering firm review AT&T's proposed plans. You can review their findings at page 40 of attachment G to the staff report. They've determined the facility at maximum power would be at 1.03% of the FCC population limits, and that would be at the areas of highest exposure, which would be at the base of the new location, 1,700 feet away from school grounds. The City of Ripon also opposed the projects on the grounds that the facility conflicted with the city's 2040 general plan and would interfere with future residential developments in the area. In conversations with AT&T, Ripon staff noted that if the facility was further off of Murphy Road, it would be less objectionable from a development perspective. They also requested that AT&T enter into an agreement with the City of Ripon to remove the site after 15 years if residential development encroached within 500 feet. AT&T drafted such an agreement, was willing to enter into such an agreement, but those talks eventually broke down, as staff noted. What we have here is on the left a photo simulation of the denied site. As you can see, it's right off of Murphy Road. On the left, also from Murphy Road looking east, is the new location. That's what a 125-foot tower looks like, 1,200 feet away. We have tried to the greatest extent possible to minimize the obtrusiveness of this site. So I mentioned the least intrusive means of filling an existing coverage gap, so I do now want to show what we mean by that. There is, on the left, is the existing coverage in the area. On the right is the proposed coverage with this facility. To give you an idea of what you're looking at, on the lower left, that road cutting across, that is 99, cutting through Ripon. So there are residential neighborhoods on the east side of Ripon that currently suffer from very poor coverage. A number of commenters, people who spoke in opposition to the project, did note that there is another tower to the north. It is 1.75 miles north. You can actually see that coverage in the top of the left slide. That is that existing facility, and that is how far south that coverage goes. It cannot reach these residential neighborhoods. So as we are currently, you can notice there is still blue on the, I do apologize, I forgot to explain what those colors mean. Green means good, reliable indoor coverage. Yellow is reliable in-vehicle coverage. Blue is outdoor only. And as you can see, there is still blue around those peripheries in those neighborhoods. That's because we are as far out as we can go. Some folks have wondered, well, why don't you get out further? And that's because we're trying to cover the city of Ripon itself. And we can't do that any further away. So the question then becomes, is this the least intrusive site under federal law? Here we've got Ripon's zoning map and Ripon's general plan. Both of these are at comparable scale and the same approximate area as the coverage maps that that I just had up there. In both instances, there is nowhere that is not within 500 feet of a residence. All of those areas in the general plan are almost all currently undeveloped agricultural areas, but every single one of them is designated as residential. What that means is that the city of Ripon has effectively banned wireless facilities within their city limits, which they cannot do under federal law. Because that is not allowed under federal law, we would argue that staff under the general plan and the general development code and standards are not obligated to follow that stuff. In fact, they would be obligated not to. So we would ask them instead to consider, with this additional review that we're requesting, to look at whether this is the least intrusive location. We believe it is. It's 1,700 feet from the school. It is 800 feet from the nearest residence. Those larger residential neighborhoods to the south are, I'm blanking on the distance, but I believe it is close to 2,000 feet away to the south. With that, we do have Bryant Malisi from AT&T External Affairs who would like to make a few comments remotely if staff could recognize him. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Planning commissioners, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you, commissioners. This is Bryant Malisi. I'm the AT&T area manager for government and external affairs for the greater Sacramento region and San Joaquin County. Thank you for taking the time to review this site. And as Kevin relayed during his presentation, our ask is for county staff to review our new site. This is an important area for AT&T to provide better coverage for both residents, local businesses, and also local first responders. Part of this cell site is going to be part of our FirstNet public safety wireless service. We've been working with San Joaquin County, County Sheriff, County OES, and other county officials for the last year, building out our FirstNet public safety wireless service throughout the county. And this site in the Ripon area would provide local public safety agencies with better communication and coordination during public safety events, such as wildfires or other issues where they need to use their public safety communication service. So we're looking forward to working with the city of Ripon on finding new ways to provide service to that northeast area. with this new proposed site, we're looking forward to work with the county staff, the county public safety agencies, and the commissioners to provide better coverage to this area of Ripon. Thank you for the time, and we look forward to the partnership.
Thank you. Any questions from staff?
FirstNet Public Safety, do we have anybody here from the public agencies that would benefit from the cell tower going up, speaking in favor of it tonight?
Through the chair, not that I'm aware of.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who would speak in favor of this appeal? Anyone in opposition? Close the public hearing, bring it back to the commission. Oh, we may have some on types. I'm sorry.
Yes, we do have 2 comments that came in via email to be read into the record.
Okay.
First is from Larry Fredericks, resident of the area, writes, to whom it may concern, I am a farmer/property owner across the street and adjacent to the proposed site of the cell tower on Murphy Road. I oppose the building of the tower. My wife and I believe that it will cause our property values to go down. More than this, I currently have 5 grandkids at Colony Oak. I'm against building the tower so close to the school. We are worried about the health risks of all the kids at Colony Oak School. Additionally, we are worried about the health risks that the tower will pose to us as we would live and work so close to it. Please do not permit the building of the tower on Murphy Road. An ugly cell phone tower would be a very sad addition to our beautiful landscape. Our second comment received via email from Jason Fulmer, whom it may concern. This is in reference to project PA 2000214 Camps Property Cell Tower. I strongly oppose the cell tower project going in on Murphy Road. Potential health problem and also devalues the surrounding land in the area, land that my family owns. Please don't let this project go through. Oppose project PA-2000214. Thank you. That concludes email comments. I see we do have some attendees virtually. This would be your opportunity to speak to the Planning Commission if you wanted to voice opposition on the project. You can unmute yourself. If you're participating through phone, it would be *6 to unmute and speak to the commission. I'm seeing no public participation online.
We will close the public comment, bring it back to commission. Comments?
I got a question. Help me remember if I heard this right. So after a denial has been made by staff, they have whoever the applicant is has to wait a year before they can reapply. Is that correct?
That is correct. If the project is denied with with prejudice, I get these two confused, so we can help me out. Right.
The chair. So essentially there is a development title section 9-215.15 that does say if a project is denied, then there is a wait of 1 year before an applicant can apply for, and these are the words of the section, a similar application has been, similar application means an application under the same regulation applicable to the same property. So if it was a straight denial without any clarifiers, that would be the required wait period before they could apply again for a similar or the same project on the same parcel. However, in that section, it does say this section shall not apply to applications denied without prejudice, which can be resubmitted within 1 year upon payment of a fee as set forth by the board, which would just be it would be an application fee. And I provide that because what you do have an option to do pursuant to this section would be, of course, you can always just deny the application, or you can deny it with some modifications, but you could deny it without prejudice is the language from the code, and what that would do would have only the effect of allowing a resubmission.
Comments? Question for staff, is this new location still in the sphere of influence? City of Ripon?
Yes, it is, and it is on the same site as well, so it would be considered, as Zoe stated, similar project.
And if I may, through the chair, in regards to Planning Commission's scope on appeals, and I think you know this, but you know me, I like to reiterate. You can, of course, grant the appeal, deny the appeal, or you can grant with a modification. I would give you the caveat that a modification should not and cannot exceed items about the project that have been reviewed. So I think the way that we would want to look at that they wouldn't exceed the scope of the review, because that would, as a lead agency, put us outside of a legally required environmental review. So if that's something that you want to explore, we certainly would need to check with staff factually to determine whether any modifications you would want to make to the underlying project were within the scope of their review factually.
I'd just like to make one comment. I support the denial of appeal, and mainly because we've got so many community members against this project, regardless of built out probably shortly the way the housing market is. Entertain a motion.
Yeah, we'll make a motion to deny the appeal and uphold the Community Development Department's denial of site approval number PA 2000214.
I'll second it.
Motion and second. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Midgley,
Yes.
Commissioner Sangha,
Yes.
Commissioner Roostaller,
Yes.
Commissioner Grunsky,
Yes.
Commissioner Hamilton,
Yes. Motion passes 5-0. The appeal period for this agenda item expires on May 2nd, 2022 at 5 p.m. $768. Thank you. Moving on to item number 2. Use permit number PA 210039 of John Jr. and Mary Lynn Franzia Trust.
Thank you, Chair. We have Associate Planner Elisa Goulart, who's setting up right now, who will do a presentation. I believe the applicant is in the audience as well.
Stephanie, thank you for your presentation. Appreciating all your help.
Thank you, Chairman. Good evening, Commissioners. This project is a use permit application in 2 phases over 5 years to convert a small winery to a large winery, to permit an increase in wine production capacity, also to add additional events to those events already permitted, and to approve the use of outdoor amplified sound at the events. Phase 1 also proposes a large agricultural store in an existing structure. Phase 2 consists of building a new 3,280 square foot large agricultural store and adding the food manufacturing use type. Project site has a general plan designation of general agriculture and a zoning designation of general agriculture with a 40-acre minimum for new parcels. This aerial photo depicts the project site. The site is currently being developed with a previously approved small winery that includes a winery building with crush pad and tasting room, a restroom building, and arbors creating outdoor seating areas. There is also an existing residence and several detached structures for private use. The surrounding parcels are used for agriculture with a scattering of residences. This is a copy of the site plan submitted by the applicant. And I just wanted to point out, if I can, but I can't. But I wanted to point out thank you. I just wanted to point out this area here on the site plan, which is an outdoor seating area, and it's also the site proposed to hold events with amplified sound. The small winery was approved January 22nd, 2020. To date, building permits have been issued for all planned structures and construction is underway. The current use permit application proposes expanding this to a large winery in order to increase the permitted wine production to 100,000 gallons of wine or more annually. This use permit also proposes adding additional events to those events already approved. Those events that are approved are 12 annual small-scale winery accessory events with a maximum of 80 attendees, and 4 annual wine release events with a maximum of 150 attendees. Additional events that are being proposed are 12 annual large-scale winery accessory events with a maximum of 116 attendees, and 20 annual marketing events with a maximum of 300 attendees. Lastly, the maximum number of attendees at wine release events, which were approved with the previous application, is proposed to be increased from 150 to 300 maximum attendees. Winery events cannot commence until there's enough wine produced and available for consumption from the winery. Outdoor amplified sound is proposed for all winery events with the exception of small-scale winery accessory events where outdoor amplified sound is not permitted. Outdoor amplified sound can be permitted to run until 10 p.m. for all events with the exception of large-scale winery accessory events where outdoor amplified sound must end by 9 p.m. Sunday through Thursday. Pursuant to regulations to permit outdoor amplified sound, a noise study was performed for this application to ensure compliance with the county's noise standards. The study found that the current existing ambient noise level in the area of the project already exceeds county standards due to traffic noise from Highway 120. Therefore, the study calculated what amplified music noise levels would likely be in the absence of traffic and concluded that these calculated noise levels were not expected to exceed county standards. Additionally, the study concludes that adding outdoor amplified sound would not result in an increase in the current ambient sound level. The study recommended that speakers be located and oriented to copy the arrangements used for the study. Therefore, the conditions of approval for the project will require the speakers be placed at the outdoor seating area with speakers positioned facing north to ensure sound levels will not exceed existing sound levels near the site. Additionally, the development title has established setbacks for wineries that are greater than the standard setbacks in the agricultural zones. For this reason, because there is a residence on the adjacent parcel, the setback from the property line on the east side is a minimum of 100 feet for all winery structures, permanent parking areas, and outdoor seating areas, which will help buffer the sounds from the winery. Currently, there is a seasonal produce stand at the property, which is a permitted use in the AG 40 zone. This use permit proposes, in phase one, this use permit proposes expanding to a large agricultural store which can operate year-round and can utilize a much larger space. In phase one, the proposed agricultural store will operate in an existing building which will be converted with building permits to an agricultural store. The second phase of this proposed 5-year project proposes a new 3,280 square foot building for use as a large agricultural store, a portion of which will be used for food manufacturing, which is the third use type proposed by this use permit application. The Planning Department has required that the site plan depict enough permanent parking spaces, that number being 58, to meet the requirement for the winery and for large-scale accessory winery events. Upon further review, it was decided that an additional 11 permanent parking spaces should be required to meet the needs of the agricultural store, which may be operating at the same time as the winery. as winery events. The applicant has agreed to add the spaces, and the conditions of approval have been revised to reflect this change. The additional parking does not change the maximum number of attendees to be permitted for each event. A quick drink of water, if you don't mind. This is an aerial view of the area. The red star indicates the project site. The arrows indicate the location of the nearest off-site residences, the nearest being 500 feet to the south. The pink circle indicates the location of the property owned by the writer of the opposition letter that we'll discuss later. The Community Development Department received 3 letters commenting on the project and its possible impacts. One, a letter opposing the project, came from the property owner of agricultural land across Highway 120 and across from the project site, and expressed concern about the heavy highway traffic and safety issues when accessing the project site. Also about the need to rezone the property for this use, about threats to the security of agricultural land in the area, and the increase in drunk driving caused by winery events. As for traffic issues, this was addressed with the earlier site approval for the small winery. At that time, Caltrans required improvements to Highway 120, including widening the road and installing a 2-way left turn lane. These improvements have been completed. When Caltrans reviewed the new proposal of the current use permit, the department responded that no additional improvements would be necessary. Additionally, for the current use permit, the County Department of Public Works required a transportation technical memorandum from a registered traffic engineer be submitted, certifying that the project would not degrade the level of service on adjacent roadways and intersections, which the applicant has provided. Therefore, the applicant has satisfied the safety standards of both the county and the state. The letter included statements as to the compatibility of the winery and agricultural store to the surrounding agriculture and assumed rezoning was necessary. However, this is incorrect. Wineries and agricultural stores may be permitted in any agricultural zone with an approved land use permit. In the AG 40 zone, a large winery and a large agricultural store require an approved use permit. Lastly, the winery and its operators and visitors are expected to comply with all laws and regulations, including trespassing and drunk driving laws. Community Development Department received 2 emails representing the properties on the west and on the east side of the project parcel. Both emails said they did not oppose the project, but would like to see the project conditioned with measures to lessen trespassing occurrences and to muffle sounds coming from the winery, and also to protect the winery from dust from their farming. The applicant has agreed to fencing both sides of the property in the area of the project site. Trees or shrubs will be added to better muffle sounds. This photo was taken from Highway 120, looking to the northeast at the site of the future large agricultural store. The pillars you see behind the site are for the arbor that was approved with the previous site approval application. This photo was taken from the road's edge, looking north at the new winery building, which was approved on the previous site approval application. The existing building to be converted to a large agricultural store is seen to the left of the new winery building. This photo is of the existing agricultural building that's proposed to be converted to a large agricultural store. Thank you. This concludes staff's presentation.
Questions? Stephanie, I had a question. There are 2 ag stores on this. You have one west of the tasting room, and then number S, future ag processing building, unprocessing, one a store.
It's because in phase 1, they want to just convert that existing building next to the winery building to an ag store. And they'll use that until they get to phase 2, where they'll build that larger ag building that you see on the site. And then they'll probably, I mean, the plans aren't certain, but they'll probably use that first building then for events.
So if I did the math right, the small scale accessory events now, the total number of 960 plus the 8 release days, 100 people.
Sorry, I can't hear you.
Sorry. Trying to do the math here. The small scale accessory events that's allowed now is 960 people total. All events. Or 2-day release is another 1,200.
You're doing per year, are you?
Yes. Yeah. We're talking the whole banana here. What's going on all year. And we're going to discuss this. So we want to go up to 1,392 on the large scale events, and add another 6,000 for marketing events. So, and then on top of the 140, the events and release, another 2,400, and then another 140 customers per day for the store. And so, in my math, we're talking around between 45 to 60,000 permitted. Correct.
I trust your figures, and I would say that's probably correct for a year.
A year, right. Voting on for a year, correct?
As far as opposition, was that person a neighbor, or is it a neighboring ag property, or do they live there? Do we know, or how's that work?
Well, it's a neighboring ag property in that it's across the road. It does not have a residence on it.
And the surrounding neighbors where they have the arrows pointed, they did not put any letters of opposition, or?
No, not letters of opposition. They actually support the project, but wanted it to be conditioned with those conditions to alleviate their worries about what could happen.
And the applicant taking care of that as well?
Yeah, the applicant has agreed
to. They're working together, okay.
They are working together, and the applicant has agreed to that, and it is in the conditions of approval to do the fencing and the screening.
Okay, thank you.
Go back to your map, please. Site map.
Oh, I'm sorry. Is it?
Okay, Stephanie, you have traffic coming off of Highway 120 on the, comes off, all traffic comes off and onto the property side?
Yeah, currently, yes, not currently, I'm sorry, but ultimately, that will be the only access point.
You got traffic coming and going both ways.
Sorry, I couldn't hear you.
You have traffic coming to the property on the east side, and then right next to exiting, correct?
Correct.
Entering and exiting.
Correct.
On the back side here, you had arrows on these roads where this traffic is going. Or on the west side, you have arrows on the west side property. customer traffic, or
We're talking about on the driveways, Commissioner?
that's a driveway? Is that an access road?
I believe I see them too. They're indicating the circulation of traffic. It's a two-way driveway, traffic coming in, of course, on the right side, accessing the parking areas that are behind the winery, and then leaving, of course, the same way, the traffic circle in the middle.
I was just trying to figure out what's on the site plan, side on the far north side that comes out of your site plan.
So are we talking about?
Keep coming up to the.
Here we go. Look, we come in here, and then back here there is a road that is really just an emergency road for emergency vehicles, and I believe deliveries.
Customer traffic.
But that's not for customers.
So the entrance and exits are both together.
Yes.
All right. Any other questions? Staff recommendation?
It is recommended that the Planning Commission adopt the mitigated negative declaration, the mitigation monitoring and reporting plan, and the findings for a use permit, and approve use permit number PA 2100039 with the revised conditions of approval to include an additional 11 permanent parking spaces.
All right. We'll open up the public hearing. Is there a representative from the applicant here?
Yes.
Hi, Paul Franzia, live at 20585 Ayers Avenue in Escalon, and just want to thank the staff for working on this project, taking us on this next phase. We've met with one neighbor on one side. I've spoken with the representative of the other neighbor on the other side and addressed the concerns for screening. We farm the same ground next to them, and if they were building a winery next to us, I'd probably feel exactly the same way. So everything that we've been asked to do, I think it's been very reasonable from the staff, from the different departments, and from our neighbors. And we look forward to moving forward this project. Yeah, the road around the north is the north access road for a fire department loop, deliveries to the winery, not for public. The property extends another probably 2,000 feet beyond that to the north. Plenty of coverage there. I think there's anything else. I think that's about it. Do you have any questions for me?
Yeah, I do. Go ahead. What is food manufacturing going to consist of?
So, like, if we have a commercial kitchen that we can manufacture products that we can either sell in our store to the public or hopefully sell them, like, distribute them throughout the nation. So, we live under the flight path to the airport. I watch these planes fly in from Amazon all the time, and I wonder what are they leaving with. So if we have the ability to grow food in this county and manufacture food at our store, if we find something at our store that really catches on, we want to have the ability to scale that up. I mean, but the idea is scale it up on a small scale. I mean, you see the property, see the store size we've proposed for 5 years out. It's only 3,200 square feet. So the idea is if the ag product store works and the food side of it is getting busier, that this larger store gives us the ability to scale up and be able to actually produce stuff that we can sell beyond just our storefront.
So, there's some examples of.
Oh, sure. Like, for example, my sister has a cottage food license to make jelly. So, and she sells a lot of that to the local stores in the area. So that's one thing. I mean, I have a sister-in-law who's a chef. She does fresh salad dressings. It's things like that that we could utilize what we grow in the area and some talent that we have and hopefully come up with something that hits.
Out of all the winery you're going to and you're going to produce the 100,000 gallons, is that all going to be processed on site?
It will be, yeah. I mean, eventually, it takes time to scale up to that level, obviously, but, I mean, the idea is that we want to get to that point, but we're not trying to recreate the two wineries that are down the road, the Wine Group and Petri Winery and the Self. This is a, you know, you can tell from the site plan, and I think some of the renderings that were maybe you saw in the Manteca bulletin recently, this is more of a agriculture or tourism. I mean, we're trying to promote what we do here in San Joaquin County. There's people from all over the world that drive down that highway. I think according to the traffic engineer, the count was something around 16,000 cars a day, I think was the number. In the summertime, it goes up tremendously. Since we've had our fruit stand there, you know, the first year was prior to COVID. There were customers from all over the world. I mean, the first day, I think our first customer was from Italy, and the last customer was from France, and everything in between. Since COVID, we haven't really had a lot of that international traffic, but we get a lot of people stopping in, and they're just interested in what's growing. What are all these trees here? I mean, I've never seen people get excited about an almond tree, but it happens. So,
Last question is, applied for 20 marketing.
well, the idea there is if we apply for 10 and we decide that, you know, there's more demand than what we planned for, then we're kind of back at square one having to go through this process again. So my feeling is we're going to do it. What's the maximum amount that we're allowed? We'll apply for the maximum amount, and if we, you know, it probably will take us time to get there. First of all, people have to discover you're there, and then you have to basically gear up to meet that demand. So, I mean, I think on most things we didn't go to the max. I mean, obviously on accessory winery events, I think it's basically you could do one a day if you were inclined to do so. So we're going in with what we think is a reasonable scale. But on the marketing events, main thing is what a lot of wineries ran into during COVID is, you know, couldn't use a lot of your facilities. You couldn't have people inside. So there's an area there, if you're not able to do these marketing events and rent your facility out for wedding, you're giving up a huge potential for, one, selling wine, because it's basically an audience that's closed. They have to buy your wine if they want their wedding or their corporate event there. And then, two, just being able to, like, make that extra money on the events. Because from what we talk to people who have small wineries like this, and or even large wineries that do marketing events, so they don't call them that in every county. They call them different things, but that's where a lot of the money is made. If you're not going to be one of these wineries that's going to try to get into every grocery store and be on the shelf in Save Mart, and you're trying to sell it and make it at your facility and sell it at your facility, the way you do that is by having a captive audience, I guess, especially one that wants to pay for a wedding. That's really what it comes down to. Pretty much a financial decision why we went to 20. Let's put it this way, we haven't opened up yet, but my gut feeling is I want to have the ability to make money more ways than just one. And that's kind of the idea. The ag product store, the food manufacturing, the winery, each one of these entities supports each other. If we have a marketing event, the idea is we have a kitchen. Hopefully we can sell them some food, or the caterer.
Will you cater at your kitchen for these?
Probably not. It'll probably just we'll have some rent caterers that we are on a list that can use our kitchen. If you want to have an event there, here's a list of approved caterers. And that's the plan.
Question?
I have a question, if I may.
Go ahead. Thanks, John.
So the question is to the applicant. You had mentioned that there's going to be amplified sound.
Yes.
So what time does that amplified sound stop?
I believe it's 10 p.m. at the marketing events and 9 p.m. for the large accessory winery events on Sunday through Thursday. And I would assume that means on Friday and Saturday it goes to 10 as well.
Okay, and would you be having private security there to manage those kind of events when there's parties and events like marriages, receptions?
Yeah, I mean, if there's a marketing event, we're renting it out to a third party that's going to be part of the contract. I mean, they'll pay for it, but we'll provide it.
Okay, because usually on the receptions, I'm speaking just from experience, not my experience, but from business experience, that nobody stops the music. Almost nobody stops the music at 10 o'clock. So somebody has to be there to enforce it.
Yeah, well, that's what management's for. I mean, just for relative, I don't know if you pull a map up, but I mean, we only live a mile away from the property. So, I mean, there will be some representative from the company there. We're not going to rely on security to tell them when to turn the music off. I mean, security is there for security, and property management people, myself, my siblings, and our employees will be responsible for pulling the plug at 10.
Okay, good to know. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And so, I mean, a lot of these plans are based on having success in the beginning and scaling up. We're talking about the end would be, the grand scheme is to have all the events, the weddings. In the beginning, you got a small little ag store, it seems like, up, a little bit up from the stand that's there now. And so there's a scale-up process that you're doing, correct?
That's exactly right. I mean, if we get into it 3 years and we decide that the ag product store there's no need to go to the next level, then I don't think we'll exercise the building permits for the phase 2. But again, it's kind of like planning for 20 marketing events. I'd rather do this once. I'm actually already doing it twice. We came in earlier with the small winery, and then we just realized once the fruit stand was up, I mean, there's a tremendous amount of interest. I mean, the traffic, when it's not a COVID year, that comes through these places, it's pretty tremendous. And I mean, I think in the long run we can do it, but we wanted to basically start with what we have, an existing building, what works, what doesn't work, and then we can take that lesson on to the next phase when we get there.
So basically, you just answered the question I was going to ask. You came in and asked to start as a small winery. Now you've had a epiphany saying, you know what, we want to be able to expand and we don't want to keep coming back.
That's
that correct?
It. Yeah. I mean, we could put our toe in the water, and it was warmer than we thought. I mean, of course, COVID hit, and it kind of made everybody rethink things. And we talked to a lot of other small wineries and what was making it, what would they wish that they had, and we try to incorporate some of those ideas and take some lessons. And hopefully, it works out. I mean, this is a business venture. We're doing it to make money, and we think we can do it and promote the agriculture that is what our area is known for.
So what buildings are you constructing now?
So right now we have the building permits actually it's every building on the site except for the proposed ag product store, building S. The store that we're proposing to use as an ag product store under this application was originally on the original plans and permit basically like a small winery within a winery, if you will. So it was, it kind of goes back to the original plan. We had to reutilize an old barn on the property, and by the time we got through with structural and mechanical building issues, we decided it wasn't really feasible to rebuild the barn. So we replaced it, and at that time we hadn't really changed the use on little winery in we call it the terracotta building. I don't know if the pictures that you showed there, but it's the building that has the cactus in front of it. So.
Okay, yes, thank you. Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
All right.
Anyone out there like to speak in favor of this project?
We do have some people up here online. If you are wanting to speak in favor of the project, this is project PA 2100039. You can unmute yourself and speak to the commission. If you're participating through phone, that'd be the *6 to speak to the commission. I'm not seeing any public comments.
Is there anyone in the audience or online who'd like to speak in opposition?
Once again, if anyone who is participating online wishes to speak in opposition of the project, give you the opportunity to unmute and address the commission. I'm seeing no opposition comments.
You have a question. Is there somebody from environmental health here who can answer a question? The question is, how do you size a septic system to handle yearly 50, 60,000 people? How do you take that into effect, or you just take monthly?
Chairman, Commissioners, environmental health place conditions on this project require soil suitability and nitrate loading studies. And based on this study, we'll make recommendations what kind of nitrate impact from the septic systems based on a number of the people proposed. And then we can design from a septic system from that way.
The yearly proposal number, or is it?
It's basically the daily.
Daily, okay.
The maximum daily.
Total number.
That's correct.
Question, thank you.
You're welcome.
Listen, I had another question for you. So there wasn't a full-blown traffic study done?
If it would be okay with you, maybe we would have Public Works. We do have a staff person here. He'd probably be better prepared to answer that question. Thank you.
What was the question again?
Question was, what kind of traffic study was done for?
So on this project, there was a traffic technical memorandum done. That was based off of the increase in events and attendees for some of those events. So a traffic tech memo, just kind of a background on the difference between a full-blown traffic study, which is kind of your Cadillac of traffic analysis, and then your tech memo. Tech memos are done when the proposed project doesn't actually meet the development, the criteria in the development title for a traffic study. But basically what the traffic engineer at Public Works wants to determine is, I don't think there's going to be any impacts to the adjacent roadways, but I do want some sort of analysis that confirms that. And then Katie Anderson, a licensed traffic engineer who does a lot of work in the county, actually performed that traffic technical memorandum, and they determined, yes, there were no impacts to the roadways based off of this additional traffic that this project would generate.
Thank you. Any other questions? If not, we'll close the public hearing and bring it back for comment. Comments?
Yeah, just, I mean, I've gone on these winery issues back and forth several times. I vote one way one time, a different one, because they're all individual issues. I think this one's a little different than things we've seen in the past because of neighbor opposition, which last had some that were very, very strong, and also a history of being bad actors at the extreme, but inconsistent management, I guess you could say, or something like that. But whereas we have a case here, this kind of goes in line with what we were talking, I want to say with the development title update, we were talking with the agritourism situation brief we got a couple weeks ago from gentleman who briefed us on it. So I don't have a huge issue with this. I think it's different than ones we've had in the past. Understand, the traffic 120 is not, what makes the project great is also a hindrance as well. It is 120 and it's pretty busy, but I think that the plant that they have, I don't think it's going to go to a massive production right away. And, if the market's there, it will grow appropriately, but, I think feel comfortable giving an opportunity to someone.
Comments? Jerry?
I think it'd be a nice addition to the community. I'm excited about it. I think it's a good thing.
First, I want to say I'm pro-ag, I'm pro-winery production and marketing and all that. But I think on my feelings on this project for going from large real quick. And I think there should have been a traffic study done because you're putting potentially close to 60,000 cars on a very, very busy highway. This coming year or 5 years from now, traffic will probably increase on now and then. Issue with how big the septic system's got to be to handle everybody. We'll have an issue with marketing events. I know you've got the greatest wine in San Joaquin County. You really need 20 marketing events to market your wine, to have weddings. I don't want to beat a dead horse. Bride and groom, not for the wine. Other comments? Motion? Oh, Jazz, excuse me, I'm sorry. You have a comment?
I'm good, thank you.
You have a comment?
No, sir, I don't.
Okay, thank you. I have a motion.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve use permit number PA 21000039 with the attached conditions of approval.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Roll call.
Commissioner Grunsky,
Yes.
Commissioner Midgley,
Yes.
Commissioner Roostaller,
Yes.
Commissioner Sangha, Commissioner Sangha, are you still with us?
Yes. Yes.
And then for your roll call vote, was that?
Yes, I said my.
Commissioner Hamilton?
No. Motion passes 4-1. Appeal period for this agenda item expires on May 2nd, 2022, 5 p.m. And the fee is $768. Good luck with your project. Thank you. Go into other business. Oh, item 4, excuse me. Over one. Item number 4, relocation of Planning Commission venue.
Chair, I believe all of you received a memo that we were preparing right up into the last minute, so I'm sorry that you did not get that before yesterday. We worked with our ISD staff. We have Mark Thomas, who's the director of ISD, as well as his staff, Greg Moore. They have a presentation for you tonight, a PowerPoint presentation, to kind of give you a visual and explanation of some of the information that was in that memo tonight.
Okay, thank you.
I'm sorry, can you all hear me?
We can hear you.
All right. Thank you, Chair Hamilton and Commission, for this opportunity to present ISD's draft proposal on the upgrade of facilities at the Ag Center to support Planning Commission meetings there, potentially other meetings there. So I'm just here to answer any questions eventually that come up about any operational questions you would have of the department. Really, and also here to introduce Greg Moore. Greg is our team lead of our digital services team, and he's prepared the presentation that he's going to go over today. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, so this is Assembly Room 1 at the Ag Center with the risers on the back wall here with the existing tables that the Ag Center provides, creating a dais for the commission members, the staff members, as well as county council and the clerk. And then we would kind of set it up in a similar setup to the boardroom as you see here. So we have a public speaking podium, and this could either be a table or a podium that Ag does provide, and then with seating in the back. And behind, you'll see that there's actually 2 projector screens here and here, as well as a TV and a TV on this corner that would be presenting similar to the boardroom here. So you'd have 2 projector screens behind you and to the sides. So there's approximately 54 seats available. The system that we're proposing would include 12 wireless microphones that would be a similar gooseneck to the mics in front of you could use, and then you'd have the 2 projectors and 2 TVs. Now, you could expand into the remaining 2 assembly rooms in the Ag Center. The only issue with that is that the projectors are oriented in an alternate direction. So if you had members of the public sitting in this area at this distance, it may be easier for them to look to their left to actually see those presentations in both of assembly rooms 2 and 3. There's also additional TVs in the corners here and here in these rooms. So just an orientation change for those that would be in the back, but we could overflow into those rooms.
Right now, how many numbers are you at in the main building?
I would have to ask Ag. I don't have the numbers offhand for the additional seating in the.
No, not the additional, but.
In Assembly Room 1, it was around 54. So this is just a logical kind of showing you the additional equipment marked in green is all the new equipment that we would be adding to Ag Center's existing AV system. And primarily that's because it was never intended or set up for a boardroom setup. It's more for classrooms and presentations. And there were some questions about the $110,000 estimate. So this gives you a rough breakdown of the cost for the equipment as well as an estimate for labor based on previous work that we have done, not estimated by an actual AV contractor, which we would go out to bid at that time, get estimates.
I stopped you there and asked you a question.
Sure.
When was the last time you got these numbers and setup such as
a setup for board chambers, or specifically the equipment in use in this estimate?
Right now.
Some of this comes as recent as a couple months ago for some of the components that we have spec'd for other projects. So it is a mixture of some new pricing and some old pricing, basically, that we've seen.
And are you seeing, as you do other projects and look at other things, that pricing is fluctuating towards the higher end than a lower end when it comes to purchasing at this time?
With the supply chain issues, we have seen almost all of the AV vendors add a percentage increase to all of their products.
So the estimate that you've presented tonight, could you have any idea where it could vary, go higher? What percentage could go higher between now and when this?
Well, essentially all the
goes forward?
pricing that I'm providing is the current listed MSRP pricing for the items that are included. So it would meet the current pricing. Depending on when the project actually takes place, it could fluctuate up, yes. So just to draw some attention to the Ag Center, there is some additional work that would be done by ISD because the setup is meant to be taken down because it's as you're renting the facility, we're using it that evening. There could be renters following behind the next morning, so we would need to take down all of that equipment. So just showing our average hourly rate, because this is done after hours, it's generally at time and a half. So just some estimates for you there. There would also be some cost to contracting with the janitorial to do setup of the stage, as well as move the tables and any chairs and that kind of setup, as well as taking it down. And then when we had spoke with community development, there was some mention of renting out the facility for the full day ahead of, because otherwise the room could be booked until 5 potentially, and then trying to move all this equipment in and set it up in less than an hour for you guys could lead to some issues. So that's the room rentals there. And then again, just kind of talking about the room functionality, we would have the 2 projectors, 2 TVs, public presentations. We would propose to put monitors in front of you, so similar to the dais that you have now, so that way you can see the PowerPoints, you can see those maps very clearly up in front of you. You would have wireless gooseneck microphones, similar to what you have now. We would integrate the same camera feeds and presentation feeds as we do now into Teams for remote participation. Then we would provide an encoder that we could then stream out to third-party services, such as YouTube, as we do now. And then we would propose an iPad with control, similar to the stations that we have set up for our clerks here, that would allow them to adjust cameras, control the microphones, that kind of thing. That kind of thing, similar to this room. And then just some examples of the PTC cameras that we would place. So there'd be 2 cameras front and back, so that way, similar to here, we could have the audience view and the public speaker, as well as the dais view. Presentation, so I'll take any other questions that I can answer for you.
I mean, our schedule's pretty set with, first and third for the most part. I mean, I got to imagine they're not that busy where they couldn't just block that out for us for the year, right?
So there was some discussion about, yes, because the calendar is usually set, I think a year and ahead, they would put in reservations for all of those dates. There is the caveat that these areas, if there is an emergency and OES feels that they need the additional space, the first room that they generally move into is Assembly Room 1 because it is physically attached to the Emergency Operations Center, and it's where we have most of the locations that we can set up additional phones and computer connections for them.
When we did that, I want to say Dollar Tree for Linden, remember we were out there?
Yeah.
At the Dollar Tree, was that where?
The Dollar Tree presentation. Was
Okay, so is this the room that we were in for that night? You remember that?
You
right?
were, yeah.
Yeah, and
And
that
I
worked.
think it did have the one partition open, so I think that was Assembly Room 1 and expanded into Assembly Room 2.
That's what, okay, that's right, yeah. Gotcha, okay.
Accommodated everything. How many rooms are there, conference?
There's 3 assembly rooms that have 2 partitions.
So we could be having a meeting there.
There could be other renters in the other locations, yes.
I have some comments.
Could be a party, though. So it could be having a party next door. You can go from the meeting to the party. No.
So, could I make comments?
Yeah, make a comment.
So, I am, come out and say it right now, I'm not in favor of moving at this time. I can't, in good conscience, say let's, and I know the Board of Supervisors have the ultimate say, but we're talking anywhere from $80,000 to $100,000 when we have this facility here that is not being utilized all the time and could be by not only this commission or other commissions that need to meet. We've already spent in Joaquin County, I'm going to guess probably $80 million to put this up. I'm not sure what it is, but if today's dollars, it's probably even more than that. The city council meets in downtown, and I know people have spoken and say it's not safe to be downtown. I get it. I've been yelled at when I parked on the street. But I think we're missing the point of we serve at the public's pleasure. The public pays taxes, which is used to made this facility. We need to use it as much as possible. City Council still is going to be downtown. They're just moving down the street on Weber. And they're spending another, we've already spent millions to buy the building. They'll probably be spending another 12 to 15 million to retrofit the building. The city believes in the downtown, and I believe the county, by just building this building, says we believe in the downtown too. Everything that we talk about that we're going to do is sort of a redundancy. We're going to add all this audiovisual, multiple cameras, microphones, which we already have here. We're not changing the format of the meeting. You're still going to be able to come and be here in attendance, or you can go online and follow the meetings. I just can't, in all good conscience, say, oh yeah, no, we need to move out to the Ag Center. When the meetings used to be in the auditorium of the Public Health Department, how many people attended there? Did they feel any safer being on Hamilton as opposed to being here? I can't say because I wasn't on the commission at that time. So I respectfully say you should stay here.
Yeah, I think those are some good points. A question, would this equipment be able to be used by the Ag Center as well, or are we any way upgrading them so they can host other events with this type of equipment as well?
I would say there's limited potential because of the nature that we would have to actually set this equipment up and take it down. It's not necessarily intended to be used by an off-the-street, somebody coming to rent the room, because if we're laying cable down across the floor, we need to make sure we tape it down or put wire mold over it to eliminate tripping hazards and that kind of stuff. So it wouldn't really be something that could be usable. Parts of it could be independently, like the microphones are easy enough. They're wireless. They're going to be rechargeable, so they would just set them down and they could use them. But a lot of the video components, no.
Yeah, I just want to stress that this is it's a fairly labor-intensive setup and tear down,
So if the Ag Commissioner wanted to have a panel discussion, 5-6 people on a panel similar to us, they want to utilize it?
Potentially, yes.
And other part of the county personnel or departments would like to use discussion where you have microphones and audience also?
Yeah, I mean, so it would be some contract with ISD for those departments to come out, and if they really want to set it up and use it at that time, yes. So
it actually is used.
Well, with county departments,
could use it.
Yes. For the general renter is what I would say is probably more a primary use for them. No, because I don't know that they would.
Has there been any interest for those who use the Ag Center for a setup such as this? Or the need for more microphones, or the need for more equipment? Has that request been made by any other group?
Not to my knowledge. We did increase the number of microphones when we did the last upgrade. I think they only had 1 per room, and now they have 8 total. But again, depending on rental use at the same time, we wouldn't be able to take all 8 and use it for your group. So that's why we're including a sufficient number to where we don't have to rely on those 8.
The cost to set it up and take it down every time, when here it's all here and everything that you're going to do is to try to make it like we have it here, I'm just not in favor of us going to a different facility when we have everything here without spending all that money.
I think they're all valid points. I do think, just look at tonight. We have this property that was out in the ag property in Ripon and another winery that was out in Escalon. And a lot of the issues I've seen since I've been up here have all been ag related, whether wine ordinance or everything. And there's definitely a fact that it is harder for the ag community, which a lot of these issues, if you look at all the issues, even just since everyone's been on, do affect the ag community. They're less likely to come downtown Stockton for the parking alone. The parking is terrible. There's no solution yet. I agree with all your guys' points. I don't like, it's easier to spend the government's money than my personal, but it still stings a bit. But at the same time, I think that, Chair Hamilton, I'm sure, feels the same way. There is an underserved part of the ag community that has some issues with coming downtown, and so many of the issues that have come up in the past few years since I've been on here have been ag related.
I had a question, if I may.
Go ahead, Jess.
So a couple things. I think this thing has been clarified already. If we go there, it's not just for the Planning Commission that we're spending the $110,000. There's going to be other county departments that will be also using that facility.
If I may, through the chair, I think at this time that's an open question, right? At this time, that there's no one in this room, I think, who has that information. That may be a question that we would want to pose potentially to the clerk of the board who oversees the county boards and commissions, most of which I believe meet here in the admin building or at their connected departments. So, for example, the Ag Tech meets at CDD. So that's an open question that would probably need to be directed to the clerk of the board to gather that information from the various boards and commissions that the county has.
Go ahead, Jazz.
I understand. Thank you. I understand that. I just didn't want us to look like the culprits that we're making the taxpayers' money go down the drain with spending so much money. That being said, I had another question. The gentleman said that we're going to be paying them time and a half because they're working after hours. But they're not working like over 8 hours. So just because somebody's working the evening shift, does that dictate time and a half?
Yeah, I'll address that one. So this is essentially what we're proposing is an increase in labor, right? So all of these setups are highly manual, So it's likely that folks would be working an extended day to support these meeting setups and teardowns. So that would bring in overtime potentially, and then there are shift differentials.
Exactly. So shift differentials always make sense because somebody who's working the night shift will definitely make a little bit more. But we do have enough employees at the county level where the person who already did an 8-hour shift doesn't have to work there in the evenings to make time and a half. My reason coming as a business owner, the private sector, there is a way to control the labor and there's a way to control everything. The bigger picture is there is a lot of people who don't want to come to the downtown. I'm not including myself. I'm talking about the people who want to come and attend the meeting. The farmers, especially the people who are out there and who don't really, sorry to offend anyone, but they don't feel comfortable coming to downtown. Not everybody can park in the garage downstairs. So that is an issue. If you talk to people out there, it is a huge issue that people cannot come, people don't want to come in the evenings just because of what's going on there, around there.
I don't think Hazleton was a better
That's
location.
just my 2 cents, with all due respect.
Okay, thank you.
But thank you.
I think we all know where we stand on this. I think I've parked in the garage as well as parked out on the street. I respect what you say, but I also believe it is a disservice to say everybody wants to go out to the Ag Center. I mean, how do you know that?
Not everybody.
And so those.
Because I spoke to quite a few people that I spoke to.
It's all anecdotal, what people say. So yeah, there's no, there's not going to be hard numbers of how many people. There's not a poll out to the people or anything like that. And we're just sending, if it approves or if it gets denied, it's dead. If it approves, it goes up to the supervisors, right?
Yep. Right, and it's their final decision.
Yeah, and then it's their deal, and then I'm
making a recommendation.
Yeah, correct. And I think we've seen recently they've, gone for some stuff we sent up there and overturned other things. So, yeah, that's all I got to say.
So if I can just make a couple points here. Appreciate everybody's comments. Parking's a big issue down here. Participation's a huge issue. We're here for the taxpayers. I've been on the commission 11, 12 years. We had quite a bit of participation at Hazleton, and because fine parking area, it was lit. That all went away when we came down here, and COVID, obviously. But, I mean, I had people call me from my district with related issues. Said, this is how I feel. Can you share my thoughts? I'm not coming downtown. Park in the garage, it's dark. I even had a lady call me from Ripon this past week. Project, and she would like me to pass that on, and that cost is there $80,000 to $100,000. Parking safety, taxpayer. That somebody want to
I'll go for a motion. Make a motion to relocate the Plan Commission venue. Should I just read?
You can either read it or you can refer to it. I think it's sufficiently clarified as long as it's item.
have a motion? Do I have a second? I'll second the motion.
Second.
Want a second? Yes?
Yes, please.
Let's see the roll call vote. Commissioner Midgley.
No.
Commissioner Grunsky.
Yes.
Commissioner Roostaller.
No.
Commissioner Sangha.
Yes.
Commissioner Hamilton.
Yes. Motion passes 3-2. Any other business? Planning Commissioner comments? Director's report. Future meetings?
Chair and Commission, I'm going to hand it to Jennifer in a second here, but I'm sure you all know by now through my email, this will be my, there will be 2 more meetings before my departure, but I will be gone by the end of May, basically. And I'll express my sentiments even more as the weeks move by and we come back to a couple more meetings here. But it's just been my honor and pleasure to serve with you and this county. And I think I leave the place better in terms of the department and to the extent that you've got a great team still. And when I say team, I could not do anything without this team. And I think you know that already, but I just want to make sure you knew that I publicly acknowledge that's the team that made this department work the way it's going. So I will be back still. I'm not gone yet, but I'll be gone again, and it'll be another month or so. But I do want to make sure I express my appreciation to the staff, the commission, and everybody at the county. So with that, I'm going to pass it over to Jennifer.
I've been instructed to move this mic closer to my face, although I'm quite loud normally.
We can hear you.
Okay, so ideally, we don't like to have one item on a planning commission evening. However, we couldn't really avoid this one in that this applicant whose project has been appealed, it is an energy project, a battery storage facility in the east part of the county, and their project was approved at staff level and then appealed by a law firm. So they are very anxious to meet their own timeline, so we are trying to move it forward as quickly as possible. So we have the one item in the east part of the county, like I said, east of Linden. That will be on the 5th. The 19th, we have yet another tentatively scheduled appeal of an industrial facility. It's a logistics center, also appealed by the same law firm, but there's 2 law firms on that one. So that one, at this point, what I've been told by staff is that there's an agreement between the appellants and the applicants to potentially table it right now, so I'm not 100% sure if it's going to come to you on the 19th or not. So that may or may not be on the agenda. However, we do have a public road name change for a portion of a street in the city of Stockton that's to be annexed ultimately into the city, so they're just kind of cleaning that up. And then we have this revision of approved actions for an existing quarry where we are doing some additional kind of cleanup to match conditions of approval for the project to a previously certified final EIR. So these are not our standard land use applications. They're all a little bit different. So we'll at least have the two going forward on the 19th, maybe the third one. That's it. Thank you.
Any other comments?